I mean, when we will see our first draw? I mean, that could be the big question of the day. And the second games, they are now in progress. Where should we go? So we have a C3 Sicilian there between Megan and Tani. We also, we have to go to the middle clash there between Faustino and Andy Woodward. Maybe we can go there and check out how
Absolutely.
our
Now,
two
normally when
heavyweights are
someone plays
doing.
the Sicilian, it's a young woman after my own heart. But this is the titanic clash of number one versus number two. A battle of two players who played in Tata Steel this year. And here we go. Okay. Usually when you can get rid of that isolated D pawn, as Black is about to do, then Black has at least equalized. Okay, a little bit of pressure on the D pawn, but objectively it's supposed to be about equal. But Yovi, what do you see here in the early stages of this game?
Well, as you mentioned here, there's virtually no pawns in the center, just that tension between D and E pawn. And so that energy just transfers over to the pieces. And so now it's just a question of mobilizing them. So I'm thinking queen takes B2 is a big threat. So you have to go knight to A4. The white rooks, they need to be centralized on C1 and D1. And Black also has to be doing stuff here, like bringing the pieces in. Bishop E6, rook goes to E8 and C8 as well. And it becomes a battle of who has the most purpose to their position. So now big choice here for Black, what to do. Do you go knight takes E4? Just exchange a set of minor pieces, get rid of the central tension. But okay, yes, you leave yourself with a weak pawn on C6. I think I would opt for that one as well. The evaluation pass is the most natural move. That was instinctively my choice. It wasn't necessarily the best. And the evaluation bar starts rising for Faustino.
Yeah, I was even wondering if you could take here and fork these two pieces while losing your knight on f6, but that's a little bit out of bounds at this point because the knight has indeed captured. And interestingly, I don't often look at the computer eval, but it wants to give up the bishop, not the knight. And I think we can see why. If the knight lands on e4, then the knight's hopping into f6, and those are going to be some mortally weak dark squares, or at least it's going to occupy a lot of your defensive effort for the rest of the game. So what do we do? I mean, if we take the knight first and then take, it's essentially the same thing. You're still getting those very, very weak dark squares. I guess you could have the knight take and play f5 to cover f6. I don't know if it's good. You are, got some weak queenside pawns, but there's a problem on f6. We know that.
Yeah, there's a problem on f6, as you mentioned. And I think the thing that's going to be troubling Black is the bishop coming to f6 and making that trade, and then the queen and knight are going to dance around the dark squares. And so this is why you were seeing bishop to f5, because if a knight comes to f6, you can just simply slide over with the king to h8 and then play around that piece, pretend it doesn't exist. But it's a good defense, I think, from Andy. So for Faustino, he has to find a way to kind of just exert the pressure. Maybe he can still go knight to f6 and then kind of slide the queen over to protect. But I mean, it's not an easy position at all.
Yep, if the queen does get to h4 with the king on h8, that will provoke some sort of pawn weakness for Black, probably pawn to h5, but even that's a little loose after g4. So queen g3 is the move that's the most threatening. Now, queen g3, if we take this pawn to pressurize the knight, the queen can still come to h4 because she very sneakily defends the knight. I wonder if there's a move h6, but then we have bishop takes, queen takes, bishop back. I don't know. There are some problems for Black to solve. Now, the queen went up instead of sideways. It probably matters not, as your countryman Shakespeare would say, Yovi. But this queen is getting to h4, and Black's got some problems to solve. Luckily, Black has a little bit of a time advantage, but we're going to see Andy's defensive prowess. He was the chess.com puzzle champion in 2025 for a reason, and now it's got a defensive puzzle he's got to solve.
Yeah, and queen h4 is such a horrible idea, threatening checkmate in one. G4 is going to come up and just blast the pawn structure if Black ever posts up a pawn on h5. So how to defend? And
okay, I've got an idea. If you can allow me to interrupt here, I'm going to make a move on the board that was kind of my suggestion. So take this pawn, okay? I know it looks crazy, and it looks like we're going out of bounds. We're actually pressuring the knight. The pressure on the knight's more important than the pawn. When the queen comes over, I had this h6 idea. But what I forgot is that after bishop takes, you don't take with the queen because of bishop back, but you take with the bishop. And amazingly, there's no great discovered attack. The bishop comes back, you guard the bishop, and if check, you actually run away, and somehow black survives. It's unbelievable, but it's possible. I'm not saying that white has to go into that. Let's get back to our live position here. And when we do, we see the pawn came to h5, which was more natural. He not taking on b2. It felt loose to take on b2.
Yeah, if it did feel very gutsy, I was going to say, to take on b2, but I did like the idea. And h5, and now this is the whole thing, can white get away with your g4? I mean, it's like the most direct way to put pressure on the black position, and or do you just want to slide in with the rooks, centralize? The g4 played, that was the most cutthroat move.
Fausti's surname means gold in Spanish. I was going to bet $5,000 in gold, which, by the way, is only 1 ounce, that he was going to play g4. I mean, there's just no way you play queen h4 and don't follow up with g4. So we see g4. The black pieces are going backward, and white is sneaking in the position. And apparently the computer, they've ruined the surprise. Thank you, computer, by putting that blue arrow. The blue arrow means the best move by far, and it's rook on a to d1. And it was found by Fausti, putting PP on the PP. There it is. Pressure on the pinned piece. Pawn to c5. Now we take the rook. Okay. Let's see if white can still invade, though.
Yeah, white is simply going to take the pawn on h5. That's what they've been setting themselves up to do. And is there some rook g8 nasties? I don't quite believe it. And okay, well, here white just has to maintain control. And they're on their final seconds, Mike.
Yeah, 97, very accurate. Any bishop move can be answered by queen takes rook mate. So a completely fascinating chess here. This is a titanic battle to start out. And white seems to be converting, especially if white gets a rook to g3. I think all the threats are over now that the rook's on g3. There's no Arabian mate on g8 just yet. The knight goes back to g6, cutting off the queen's protection of the bishop. What a fantastic idea. The king has to walk onto the g file. And amazingly, the queen steps back. So the black king is surviving for the moment. 4 seconds, 1 second for Andy, who loves 10-second chess. Now he's only got 2 seconds for the whole game.
Yeah, and I love the way that Fausti is just using the geometry to start invading. And there's a checkmate on g6 with the queen. So Faustino wins. What a game.